began as a simple tale of good versus evil and became a worldwide phenomenon.
Star Wars came out, and we went to school the next day, unable to explain to our friends how everything was different now.
So much of my childhood was spent thinking, dreaming, watching, playing Star Wars.
Star Wars evolved into a 6-chapter cinematic saga, one that resonates with some of the most enduring themes found in literature, mythology, religion, and history.
What Star Wars did was bring them right up to date and reach a new generation.
It broke new ground in terms of communicating a message.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I was witnessing the creation of modern myth.
But just why is Star Wars considered the epic tale of our time?
Future generations will still be enthralled by it.
Find out as the Star Wars legacy is finally revealed. Star Wars was conceived by writer and director George Lucas during the early 1970s, a time of intense political upheaval and social unrest, especially in America.
It was not a hopeful time in America. We were cynical, we were disappointed. Oil prices were through the roof. Our government had let us down.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. America had become unhinged in a way, for good or for bad, depending on your point of view. Everything from dress to the use of drugs to relationships. The culture in this country had been turned upside down.
The country was desperately groping for real change. Star Wars came along and it revalidated a core mythology that there is good and evil, that evil has to be defeated.
Star Wars was filled with imagery and characters that harken back to many of the movies and books that had captivated George Lucas during his childhood in Modesto, California. And as the saga continued to unfold, each new chapter became richer and deeper by incorporating references to politics, philosophy, religion, history, and mythology.
What's so exciting about approaching the Star Wars cycle, it's very much like an archaeological excavation. On the surface, all of us can say, aha, Excalibur is to be seen in the lightsaber. If you go to a deeper level, you may come to the entering into the Death Star and say, aha, let us remember the Greek hero Odysseus in the underworld.
This is Red 5, I'm going in.
But then you can go deeper in the stratigraphic levels. And what's fun for me personally is when I get to a point where I say, did George Lucas mean for this connection to be made, or am I making it? Am I participating as part of the poet, the creator, in seeing connections? And that is the mythological process. Everyone sees themselves.
Mythic stories were originally designed as cautionary tales. They're stories which instruct us how we should behave, how we should conduct ourselves.
Attachment leads to jealousy. Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
Myths in every culture emerged out of religion. They were ways to make sense of the universe. Then over time, myths began to accrue around warrior figures, hero figures. And I believe that in all 6 Star Wars films, you just feel the sense of the whole history of myth and archetype.
The connection between Star Wars and mythology is also strengthened by the direct influence of famed mythological historian Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell was a professor, and he wrote a very important book about myth. And this book was used on college campuses across the country. And this was a book that George Lucas read. In it, Joseph Campbell said, myth is a metaphor for the experience of life.
Myths and dreams come from the same place. They come from realizations of some kind that have then to find expression in symbolic form.
Joseph Campbell was very influenced by Carl Jung, and Jung's theories of psychology explain that we process experience visually, that deeper than ideas or feelings, there's a visual flow, very much like a movie.
George Lucas studied the work of Joseph Campbell And, of course, he was also a filmmaker. And in the Star Wars films, George Lucas has made a very compelling use of one of the myth forms, which is the hero's journey. And this is by far the most commonly found form in the history of mythology.
Star Wars is what's sometimes called the hero's journey. It's the initiatory pattern, that is, a journey story that represents a transition, moving from one identity, say young adulthood, into another identity, say full adulthood.
Over the course of the Star Wars saga, two characters set out on the hero's journey: Anakin Skywalker and his son, Luke.
Each of them is called to an adventure. Each of them does not expect to be a hero. Each of them becomes drawn into this struggle between good and evil, where they have to choose what side they will align themselves with.
For Anakin, the journey will be a tragic one, as his arrogance, fear,
I won't lose you, Batman,
and desire for power ultimately turn him from the hero's path and lead him to the dark side, where he becomes the evil Darth Vader.
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
And Luke's journey ultimately becomes a quest to redeem his father.
Luke, take these two over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up for dinner.
Luke starts out as being nobody, and what he needs is a call to adventure to get him started.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
What's this? He says that he is the property of Obi-Wan Kenobi, a resident of these parts, and it's a private message for him.
Rest easy, son. You've had a busy day.
The call is an event that pulls us away from familiar comforts.
Ben Kenobi?
It pulls us away from everything that is familiar to us, including what we know how to do.
This is our most desperate hour.
We're out in a situation that is enormously challenging.
You must learn the ways of the Force if you're to come with me to Alderaan.
Luke fulfills a role as a mythic hero because they usually start out as being very simple, slightly insecure characters. For example, characters like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, like Harry Potter, like King Arthur, they are what's called everyman. They're us. They have the same insecurities and fears as we do.
I can't get involved. I've got work to do. It's not that I like the Empire, I hate it, but there's nothing I can do about it right now.
You must do what you feel is right, of course.
There is the possibility of rejecting the call. That is, you see what is asked of you, you see what you could rise to and say, I don't want to go. But more often, it's a kind of struggle, and there's a preparatory time there, a kind of dress rehearsal while a person is saying, I'm not doing this. In fact, mentally, they're bracing themselves.
If they trace the robots here, they may have learned who they sold them to, and that would lead them back home.
Oh, wait, Luke! It's too dangerous!
The journey of Luke is an archetypal journey, like Odysseus, for instance, or even biblical figures like Moses. They don't necessarily even want to do what they are called to do, but life contrives to send them on the journey.
At the heart of the story is some kid who is being called to service, to deal with something that is so much bigger than him. Suddenly there's this violent, heartbreaking murder of his aunt and uncle, and all of a sudden this kid's life changes.
There's nothing you could have done, Luke.
I want to come with you to Alderaan. There's nothing for me here now.
Mos Eisley Spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
The cantina scene is what Joseph Campbell referred to as the threshold crossing. This is a moment when you are profoundly aware that you're not in Kansas anymore. you are going into a bizarre place, and it's very dangerous, then the characters you will be dealing with are not like the folks back home.
He doesn't like you.
Sorry.
I don't like you either. You just watch yourself.
I'll be careful.
You'll be dead.
Luke Skywalker's journey is the simple classic hero thing of I am an adolescent who is about to break from a much smaller view of the world to a much larger one, and I'm going to go through a really painful journey in order to do that.
Just as Hercules and other heroes of classic mythology had to undergo certain tasks to prove their worth, so Luke develops as a character through the tasks he undertakes.
Good luck.
He rescues Princess Leia. He helps attack the Death Star, where he is a key player.
Are you all right? I got a little cooked, but I'm okay.
He's swept up in the battle on Hoth and is able to deal with that. He rescues his friends from Jabba the Hutt.
Let's go, and don't forget the droids. We're on our way.
All of these things are part of his proving himself, although his biggest struggle is with his own father.
How did my father die?
A young Jedi named Darth Vader. He betrayed and murdered your father.
The way Darth Vader looms as this dark, faceless figure over him is exactly the way the dead father Hamlet looms in the play Hamlet as a walking ghost. The ghost clad in armor with a sepulchral voice.
Your destiny lies with me, Skywalker.
The struggle between father and son is very present in Greek myth. For example, Zeus came to power by struggling with his father, and his father before him struggled with his father. His weapon is a thunderbolt, lightning. So when I saw Darth Vader fighting with Luke Skywalker with these light beams, I thought of the thunderbolt of Zeus.
The Luke-Vader relationship, it's actually a biblical theme in the sense that the Bible talks about the sins of the fathers will be passed on to the sons and daughters to the 5th and 6th generation.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist. Don't let yourself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did.
There's always a sense that basically evil is inescapable in all of us, and guilt is inescapable in all of us, and we have to acknowledge that.
We'll take him together. You going slowly on the left.
I'm taking him now.
No, Anakin, no! Luke's father is scarred. And passes the scar on to his son. Is it passing down the mark of Cain? Finally, all this comes to rest in Luke Skywalker.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me you killed him. No. I am your father.
Luke has to realize that he's a part of a family and to not carry on the sins of the father.
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
In a drama, there will be a serious battle and a serious wounding. Throughout the rest of the drama, the effect of that wound will shape the actions of the hero.
Anakin!
It is letting us know the dangers of adulthood. The real injuries of life add up as we go along, That is the making of character. That is what makes us human and adult and in a way wise.